fun is it, or how good is it for this program to play in an environment like this on the road in this setting for SEC play?
Yeah, I'm kind of excited about it. I would say our players are excited. I don't know that they necessarily would know what's coming their way from an environment standpoint. The guys that are hoop junkies know. They're real good. If you look at the numbers that matter, top 20 defense, top 40 offense, ultra talented, 10 seniors on their team, only one freshman, the oldest player in the country, amongst the oldest team in the country. This will be their 5th SEC game. I've enjoyed studying them. They will cause us stress in a lot of ways, and arguably one of the better environments in the country. And so there will be a lot stacked against us, but this is a good rep. Like I told the kids this morning, we're going to have 10 or 12 more of these. So for us to be able to get this rep in non-conference, it's a good first rep.
I know rebounding and ending the possession of rebound's been huge, but when you look at their offensive rebounding numbers, is that's really a point to focus in on for this matchup?
Yeah, so, we just finished meeting as a staff to do some tune-ups relative to practice today, and I love looking at all of the math before I watch any clips because I want to understand what is it that they're trying to do before I actually watch it. They shot 79 balls at Alabama. Alabama's the fastest team in our league. They were averaging 72 shot attempts. And Memphis on the road shot 79. They do a great job of forcing turnovers. And their transition volume rate is one of the fastest in the country. 43% of their shots occur in the first 12 seconds. And so, to your point, they average 12 offensive rebounds a game. How can we keep that number in single digits? And then one of the better things we do is we go to the offensive glass. And so it becomes a push and pull. Hey, one of the best things we do is we go to the glass. One of the best things they do is score in the first 12 seconds. And so what is that tension going to be on, can we create more opportunities for ourselves offensively while at the same time stopping what they do so well? And so I think some of that, Travis, will be the groupings in which we play. And then we say 100% go get, 100% get back, like the report card on our rebounding effort. On the rise of the shot, did 100% of the guys on the floor that were go-gets, are they on their way to the offensive glass? And then 100% of the time on the rise of the shot, if you're a get-back, are you getting back with purpose? And we'll have to be at 1,000% both ways. Because if you're not creating extra opportunities on the offensive glass, you better figure out how to slow them down because they just played the fastest team in our league at their place and shot 79 balls. We want to gear that down. One way to gear that down is make a shot. One way to gear that down is stop the ball in transition and try to get it more in a quarter court situation. But obviously, they want to speed you up. They're going to run and jump and try to get you to hurry up and shoot so they can hurry up and get it back. But I think who can control the glass sometimes, a lot of times, is who can control the tempo.
On average, how long do you think it takes TJ to put together the rebounding efficiency report?
TJ is like, I probably should talk more about TJ. I'm a little selfish when it comes to him. He is the smartest employee in our program. And it's very unique. He's a coach's son. He's maybe the most humble person I've met under 30 in my life. But because he's so intelligent, yet he doesn't have an ego, everybody loves him, including our players. And I haven't seen that in my career as a head coach for 16 years. He has the right balance of, I can answer your question, but I also know my position, and so I'm going to shut up until you ask. But when you ask, the tone of my response is not going to show you that I know everything, but I know it, but my tone's going to be right, and I'll help you with the answer. Coach Laird does the rebounding effort report cards, and that's, I think I've talked to you about this. On the rise, watch player 1, did he do his job? Rewind it. Did player 2, did player 3, did player 4, did player 5? And that's on one end of the floor. Now do the same thing on the other end. And because we've been doing it now, especially the returning players know where they get nicked on the report card, and you can hear them at times during the game. They're hollering at coach that they did their job. And, you know, every day I started this early in my career. I make them do the hand sanitizer. We call it juice. And a negative in defensive rebounding is when the guy that you're supposed to take up space on runs past you. We call that a flyby. And like as soon as I say juice, they're all, the whole program. Where's Laird? No flybys. And they're trying to block him out so he doesn't get juice. So TJ does a lot of the HDI stuff with me. Lyle is involved in that. But the actual rebounding effort is coach.
Does it take him? Is he?
I would say, you know, like I put a little pressure on him after Oregon State because we met Monday morning because of finals. That's hard on coach because it's probably about a 5.5, 6 hour deal to actually do each game, each possession of each player and their responsibility. So it's very, what would the word be? Tedious. Yeah.
Do the players know how much goes into that?
Yeah, and then what's ended up happening is as we've went with HDI, I've begun to teach them a little bit of what those numbers mean, and it's not ironic. Coach Laird's old school report card and the numbers, the data, they're pretty much spot on. And so I think as I've added HDI to the rebounding, like our defensive rebounding percentage, our offensive rebounding rate, like the smart guys pick up on that and they know that the actual report card, that's what the HDI numbers are.
Can you talk about the 1-2 punch?
Where have you been?
Behind this camera.
I haven't seen you in forever. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
Yeah, good to see you.
Kendrick Davis and DeAndre Williams, those guys I think against Alabama had 45, so I mean they're guys you're going to have to be concerned with.
Kendrick Davis is top 20 in the country in usage rate, top 5 in the country in usage rate as a guard, and number 12 is ultra good. They utilize his skill all over the floor. I think number 3 has shot 177 balls. Number 12 shot about 30 or 40 less than him. And third place is 100 shots less than number 3. So those two guys for sure are going to take a high volume of shots. But those two guys also force you to make a lot of decisions on how you're going to help guard the ball because it's hard to defend either of those guys one-on-one.
Does this game also give you a pretty good idea of where you're at
Sure.
in terms of the fact that they will play this? I guess you guys will be their 6th SEC opponent.
Yeah, I think, like Brent said, I think the environment we're playing in, the talent we're playing against, the pace that they play with will be unlike anything that we have played thus far. From a pace standpoint, they're almost DePaul on steroids, and the environment in which we're going to play is very SEC-like in regards to how a lot of teams in our league are supported at home. So, yeah, this will be the biggest test that we've had, and it will require us to be our best to be in a position to have a chance.
Buzz, you guys regained a lot of momentum in the second half against
Yeah.
Oregon State, and with the effort, I know you've been lauding that. So how do you maintain that? Is it I wouldn't say it would hurt you, but is it difficult to maintain that through a long break like you guys have had?
It's been normally every team, I mean, if you hit the ESPN app and look at who's playing today, it's the fewest teams that'll ever play any Thursday in college basketball. And if you did that yesterday, it's the same answer. And if you did that Tuesday, it's the same answer. So everybody's kind of going through finals week this week. What's unique about our schedule is this week we're only playing one game. And in essence, last week we only played one game. 7 games in November is about right. Multiple teams in the country played 8. I think if you were to say only one reason, why are y'all only playing one game a week for 2 weeks during the stretch in November? 1 week is because of finals. And then the other reason is we're going to play 2 games after Christmas before we play our first SEC game. And that happened last year when who was it? What game was it that was canceled because of COVID?
It was
Tulane. Remember Tulane was canceled because of COVID? And then we tried to find any team that could play. I don't know if you remember that. I found out about it on the road, and we went for about 2 days, and I was calling everybody can we have a game? We couldn't, and we ended up playing Dallas Christian just so we could have a game. I think we played them the 27th of December. And the one thing that I learned from that, I'd never done it, is, if you bring kids back on Christmas and you don't play for 4 days, those 4 practices normally aren't very good. But if you can hurry up and play a game and then turn around 2 days later and play another game, it subliminally wakes them up. Hey, we got a game, we got to play. And so we're trying that again this year. I didn't know that Northwestern State would beat TCU at TCU and lose by 2 to Illinois State and score over 100 points at Stephen F. Austin. So we probably could have found a different team. And Prairie View beat Arizona State, who I think, or Texas Southern beat Arizona State. But Prairie View beat one of those Pac-12 teams in that challenge. So those are the 2 teams. But the reason that we're only playing one game each week is because we have those 2 games immediately after Christmas.
Any difference, Buzz, in a team coached by a former NBA All-Star?
I don't know. They have really good players. I think 2 of those players played for him in high school. They have really good transfer guys that have joined them, all of which are seniors. I think number 3 was player of the year in that conference at a different school last year at SMU. Number 55 just became eligible against Alabama. He was player of the year in the Horizon at UIC. The kid, number 11, the transfer from UTEP, really good player. This is really the first time that I've studied Memphis. Obviously, I know Coach. He has a staff member who was a part of the first recruiting class I was a part of as a college coach that I've known, obviously, since, I guess, 29 years now. But, he's from Memphis, and everybody's happy he's the coach, and they have signed the best players from Memphis, and they have really, really, really good players. And there is a lot of NBA-esque type spacing, transition, ISOs that they play.
I think you answered my question on this earlier, but one of the lowest 3-point shooting teams in the country, it seems like that could maybe play interestingly into your defense, but how much of that is just transition?
Yeah, exactly. They force a lot of turnovers, which lead to transition. They want to play fast off a defensive rebound. Off a made basket, they still want to play fast. I wouldn't say that they're a great 3-point shooting team. They're a great ISO team. They're a great team at getting to the rim. And it's not a player. 3 does it a lot. 12 does it a lot. But all of those guys can really score at the rim. So you have to protect the rim. I would say that they will probably shoot more threes than they typically do, a few. But now you have to finish with the rebound because they have great athletes that are chasing after it. I think they made one in the last possession against Alabama, but they're averaging, I think, maybe 5 3-pointers made per game, and I think maybe 18 or 19 attempted. But they're shooting 62 balls a game. That's obviously that is not how many free throws. I think they make 15 free throws a game. So that's a fast-paced game.
Is it a tough job to follow up playing a Memphis team on the road and then preparing for I don't know if it's Wolford or Wofford?
I think just because I've lived in that part of the country, I think it has to do with your dialect.
So which way do they say it? Is it
Wofford.
Wofford. So then to get ready for a Wofford team that is not going to present nearly the challenges, but still a game you got to win.
I haven't watched Wofford this year. I'll start on probably Sunday morning after church. I know our staff's a little ahead of me. They could have beat us last year. I think the game started 15-2. I think they had scored 5 threes in a row when I called the first time out. And in a calm way, I said, "Do you guys believe me now?" And we had to work really, really, really hard to even put ourselves in a position to win. So I don't know because I haven't studied it. I know their coach just stepped away. Maybe 8 or 10 days ago, the head coach just stepped away. What I will say, based on assumption, the game that we'll play on Saturday is the exact opposite of prep and type of game that we'll play Tuesday at 1. And I think the game that we'll play the following Tuesday is very similar to the game that we're playing this Saturday. So it will be a completely different type of game. And like any coach would say, no matter who we play, we need to win, and we need to use the opportunity to get better. And hopefully, it would be great if we could win both. That would be a great Christmas present and help maybe allow me to sleep a little bit over the 3 days we'll be off. Olin, no questions?
Well, I think.
Because that was like the longest media availability ever that you didn't participate in.
That's true, but.
You got enough info
Seems like
that you can.
I can ask you if.
No, you don't have to. No.
I do have a favor if Olin gets
Well,
done.
go ahead, Darryl.
Okay, Coach, I would love to be able to share your comments after your ball games, but it seems to take you a long time to get into the post-game press conference. Is there any way to speed that up?
Really?
Yes, sir.
Maybe have Coach Thornton and Monaco quit asking me so many questions.
Well, it's just, it seems like it's like 40 or 45 minutes sometimes.
Is it? I don't know. I talked to our team for 5 minutes. I do take off my sweaty clothes and put on a quote shirt. I walk straight to post game and do radio. As soon as radio's over, I go straight to media. I think one time I had an emotional outburst in year 1 here at home, and I was late. But it is not because I'm not following my protocol. So I don't know.
Well, I'm just asking because
I'll tell Monaco and Thornton to quit being long-winded.
it'll work. Thank you.
That would be the answer. The way I figure it is, if the game is at 5, I'll be entering that door to go to my office to take a shower. From the time the game tips off, this is what I tell my wife, from the time the game tips off until I'm in my truck, if everything is perfect, is 4 hours later. And I'm always going to arrive 5 hours before the game. So if the game's at 5, I'm showing up at 12, and if everything flows well, I'll be leaving at 9. If the game starts at 7, I'll be in my truck at 11, which means I'm getting to the office 5 hours before. And typically, because of the school session, we've been having shoot around 6 hours before. So it's a long day. I didn't know I was that long.
As long as you're saying hello to everyone, there's Robert Stetson over there.
So you get 1 hour
Thank
overtime.
you.
1 hour overtime.
I think Cessna. There is nothing about what I'm doing, and you know this. I met you when I was an assistant. There's nothing about what we're doing is 40 hours a week. Nothing. Nothing. Which is why it's a short tenure. The more coaches hired and fired and retired, we're at the 2-year point in this 5-year period than any 10-year period in college athletics. I've been saying that since all of this started. Coming on the back end of COVID is when the portal started. 6 months later is when NIL started. And there's been more coaches fired before the season's over than ever before in football. And there's been more, regardless of sport, coaches fired, hired, and retired since that started. And we're at about month 20. And I think it's only going to escalate.
Well, I know you like to talk to a lot of coaches in different sports and stuff. Did you ever have a chance to talk with Mike Leach?
Yeah, I've read all of his books. I'm sad. And I'm trying to process it in the right way. Like when I mentioned the coach at Wofford, he was the assistant coach at Wofford when Mike Young was the head coach. Mike Young replaced me at Virginia Tech. Mike Young is arguably the best offensive coach in the country. His assistant was there forever. He finally gets his shot. And 3 years later, he's no longer the coach. I think that Coach Leach had arguably one of the worst jobs in each league he coached in, and arguably did one of the best jobs in the league that he coached in, despite the job that he had. I love that he was smart, and I don't think that the profession drove him crazy. I think he still had a life. I think he was a savant in how he thought about offense. And a lot of the stuff that I've heard over the years and read, I think he had a lot of real relationships that had nothing to do with football, just based on the inquisitive and curious personality that he had. I don't think his ego was ever involved, like as socially awkward as people may have took him initially. I actually think that's who he was, and I think that's why he was so well-liked. And coached his whole life, and he's got 3 girls, and he's fights through pneumonia this year, and maybe he beats it, and then 3 weeks later has a heart attack, and it's over. And, you can rattle off any coach, and I know it happens in every profession, but that's what I struggle with. Like, I enjoy what I do, and I've been blessed way more than I deserve, and I hope that I've helped some along the way, but it's all fragile, right? And you look at the, quote, flowers he's been given over the last 5 days, it's remarkable. And the thing that convicts me is, well, maybe we should be nicer all the time, But I'm not nicer all the time because of my ego, maybe. I'm not nicer all the time, maybe because, hey, I need to hurry up and finish this up. I know this is what I'm supposed to do, and this is kind of how I get paid, but we got a big game, and I've been crunching numbers and watching tape, and let me hurry up and go down there, and we got to have a great practice, or maybe I should enjoy some of this more. And maybe not, like a golf club. Maybe I shouldn't hold on to everything so tight. And maybe when you guys say that I can't coach, which is fine, and you're entitled to it, and maybe we shouldn't be 6-3, and you get all that stuff going on in your head, and you're like, oh man, I forgot to be nice. Merry Christmas. Tell your wife you love her. And then I see that, and I'm like, that's 11 years from now for me. And yeah, I write about it every morning when I wake up, trying to process all of that and be a little bit more self-aware, Like, my identity should not be what I do. My identity should be who I am. And I think the reason that Coach Leach was revered in such a way was everybody knew he was Iowa Wesleyan, Valdosta State, Coach Stoops for a year, Texas Tech, Cliff King, and you look at those players that he coached and what they've done relative to his offense. Like, everybody knew he was a coach, but it was like his identity wasn't that as a coach. He was just employed as a coach. And maybe that's really the line, you know? Like, can you be a person? And even when things aren't going good, can you be a person? And, you know, like, even some of the things, whether it's what happened at Tech or, like, I was reading his deal about what his agent said about what transpired at Tech. He could never get over the hurt that he was being judged in the way that he was. So I could keep talking, you know, but yeah. All right. Merry Christmas.